He is ETSU head coach Trey Lamb. I am John Brice of footballscoop.com, and this is the latest Our Coaching Network Coaches podcast. Trey, thanks so much for joining the show. What a monumental weekend that you've had, stranded on the side of the road for part of the weekend with your ETSU team. Chaotic logistics. So first, let me just say how wonderful it is to see you guys safe and back home. And secondly, to thank you again for taking some time out with us here on the pod after just a wild, remarkable weekend in so many different ways.
Yeah, thanks for having me. A lot of respect for both you guys and for this podcast and for this group. I've kept up with it for a while, so this is kind of cool for me to be on here.
Well, it's awesome for us to have you, and you and I have a friendship a few years old now, and and I'm an East Tennessee native, so I'm already following your progress there at ETSU. But for maybe the people who around the country haven't paid attention to your story, even though everyone should have been, can you just describe what the weekend's 48 hours were like for you? We chronicled it on Football Scoop late Friday night when you guys were literally stranded on the side of the road. And for folks who don't know, it was part of the hurricane that spun through, and once it made landfall and spun up through Georgia and the Carolinas and East Tennessee, it wreaked utter devastation across huge regions of the country.
Yeah, I'm the son of a football coach. My granddad's a coach. My uncle's a coach. My cousin's in college coaching, and we got a head coaching job at Gardner Webb at 30. Blah blah blah. COVID, NIL. Been through a lot of stuff as a head coach and in this market, but this was the weirdest, most unprepared I've ever been. Being trapped with your team in a flooded area, literally in all directions, kind of on an island for 14 hours waiting for the flood levels to go down. We spent a total of 25 hours on our bus over the weekend. Ended up getting the win at Citadel. It was awesome. To get that done. But when you come back and you kind of drive back around it and still see the damage of what's happened, the Appalachian community is going to be affected for a long, long time, years to come. And there will be places in the mountains that won't be rebuilt back. Utter devastation. There's probably 150 people missing within a 30-mile radius of Johnson City right now. And, our thoughts and prayers go out to them. But there's nothing you can do as a coach to be prepared for what we did. I thought, we had a couple of really good Samaritans. It's just random acts of God that happened to us, being able to get into an Ingles and get some food to feed our guys, and them allowing us to go down the aisles and get sandwiches and sandwich meat, and with the power out in a dark grocery store was really cool for the general manager to let us do that. We had a couple coaches hitchhike at 9 o'clock to a hotel to try to call our wives and use the bathroom and find toilet paper, just to be frank. And a guy picked them up and took them to the Holiday Inn, obviously without power, but they were able to use the bathroom. We got a little bit of cell service, called our wives, called our athletic director, and let them know what was going on. We were safe. We were at a homeless shelter parked in the parking lot for the night. And then just so happens that same guy that they hitchhiked with, a guy from Michigan that was stranded, drives back to the homeless shelter and knocks on our window at 1:30 and says, "Hey, my buddy just came up I-26 West, and he thinks you guys can get out of here on I-26 East." So we sent the cop down the highway, our state trooper, and he figured it out and found a path for us. And we left about 1:30 and arrived at Charleston about 5 in the morning. It was scary there for a little bit. We had to move locations a couple times to get to higher ground to avoid the floods. But our team and our athletic staff, our administration had people with us. We had our trainer, obviously, our strength coach, state trooper, the bus drivers. Like, there's a lot of people that played a hand in us being safe and kind of calming the nerves of our players, and kind of went with a few hours sleep and was able to get a win on the road in conference, which was big for us. But I'm glad to be back home safely and represent our community in the right way.
And for frame of reference, as you mentioned, you were on a bus for 25 hours total this weekend. It's about a 5.5 hour drive or so from Johnson City to the Citadel. Just for context for our listeners out there, so what should have been about a 12-hour round trip for you was obviously more than double that. If you could break down in a little bit more detail when you left Friday morning, how long you didn't move, where you were able to finally get to a hotel pregame to prepare for that 5 o'clock game. And late Friday night, as I talked to officials from ETSU, you guys were literally not moving and still being told you were expected to play a game at 2 o'clock that finally was pushed back to 5 o'clock, which 3 hours doesn't seem too generous, but you guys found a way to get it done.
Yeah, it was kind of it was certainly scary and difficult to manage, and it was kind of unlucky to start. We planned on leaving at 10:30. We did our normal Friday walkthrough at 9 in our indoor facility. And the state trooper comes in. He says, "Hey, coach, we kind of got a decision to make here." He said, "In my opinion, we need to go. The quicker we can get out of here." Because I was planning on, hey, let's see what happens. Let's wait till maybe 12 and then maybe go around everything to Winston-Salem. And it adds 3 or 4 hours to your trip, but you still would get there by 8 p.m. Friday night, be able to have dinner and rest and kick off at 2. And he's like, "I think the Nolichucky River is about to overflow. I think if we could sneak through there and get to I-40 and stay on major highways, we'll be good." So we made the decision together to get on the bus and go. So I told the team, I said, "Hey, we're rolling. Hurry up, get your butts on the bus. We're going." So we get down about 15 minutes into the trip, and I could tell it's about to get pretty nasty, and the hurricane's kind of blowing through, and we've already had a lot of water in the area. And as we're driving, just the rivers and lakes are just absolutely unimaginably high. And we cross into the North Carolina line, and we lose all service, all GPS, all communication, including our state trooper. And from that moment on, from about 11 o'clock, we did not have service or connection or internet to the outside world until 2:30 a.m. when we got into Columbia the next morning. So you're talking 15 hours with no cell service or communication or radio or any way of knowing what was going on. So we get down through there. As we're driving, the highways behind us, as we're passing through, there's no turning back. The Nolichucky had washed away Highway 26, and then in a different spot, completely flooded for miles. We could not get to Johnson City and turn around and come back. Had that been an option, I would have certainly done that. That was not an option. Our best choice was to keep going south as far as we could get. So we get down into Hendersonville, which is historic flooding. Asheville is just decimated. And we get word that I-40 is closed in both directions. Landslide, going to be closed for months, in my opinion. It'll take a while to rebuild that back. So going east or west was now out of the question. So you can't go backwards. You can't go east or west. The only option is to keep going south on I-26. It turns out we missed it by about 5 minutes. Dispatch calls into our bus driver and said I-26 is now closed for the next 6 exits with flooding. So we're like, okay, back way, take a right, Spartanburg Highway. As soon as we take a right on the Fletcher, North Carolina exit, just south of Hendersonville, is a complete washout of a road. Cops are stopping us saying, "You got to turn around." So we turn around, park in a parking lot of a shoe store, and flooding begins to happen into that parking lot. I tell the bus driver, we got to go get higher ground. We park at a Burger King up kind of on top of the exit there, on top of the hill to avoid the rising waters. And we sit there for 6 hours until it starts getting dark, honestly. We made a decision about 7 o'clock. The rescuers told us that the highest point really of property on the so-called island we were on with water in all directions was the homeless shelter close to the airport in Asheville. So we drove a mile, stopped at Ingalls. They let us raid the grocery store, essentially. They let our cops or let our state trooper and our strength coach go in there and fill buggies worth of sandwiches and food. So we had enough food probably for the next 12 hours. We go to the homeless shelter. We park in the parking lot, turn all the lights off, feed our team, try to get some rest. Told our team we're going to be sleeping here through the night, looking to probably play the game on Sunday if we can get out of here. Now, we were also getting reports from rescue teams that we could be there for 2 days. And we were heard, the problem is in these situations, there's so many people stranded and there's no communication from the outside world. So the rumors are just swirling. Like, hey, it could be 5 days. It could be 3 hours. It could be, hey, this hotel's got cell service. This hotel's got toilet paper. This hotel has lights. So you're getting all these rumors from all these random people that are stranded. And we really didn't know what was true and what wasn't. So we kind of wanted to hunker down in an area that water couldn't get to us. And we stayed there at the homeless shelter, ate our sandwiches, and kind of went to bed and dozed off. A couple of our coaches left about 9 o'clock to try to go call our wives. We have not talked to them since we left. try to get some information back to our families, and try to get a text message or an email out to the players' parents. They didn't know anything, and they're panicking, I'm sure. Haven't heard from their sons in a few hours, 9 hours at this time. And they go to try to find a bathroom and try to find cell service. And a guy picks them up. They kind of hitchhike up to a hotel. There's a guy stranded from Michigan, picks them up in an electric vehicle because most people are out of gas or trying to get gas at gas stations with no power. He takes them to the Holiday Inn. They're able to get a little cell service, use the bathroom, drops them back off at the buses, and we all go to sleep. About 1:30 in the morning, it just so turns out this guy from Michigan that picked up our coaches comes back and knocks on our windows, and we're kind of scared. We're at a homeless shelter. Don't know who this is, trying to get on our bus. A little bit nerve wracking, and he's knocking. We're all asleep, and we kind of panic. Hey, what are you doing? He said, hey, I'm looking for Coach Joe Selfo. And Coach Selfo's asleep under the bus in the carriage area, like where the bags are,
All
because that's the
right.
best place to lay down. So we go get Joe, and we're like, well, who are you? What's going on? He's like, I just picked up Joe. We met. I know your situation. My buddy just drove up from South Carolina. He thinks the highway's now open. This is 1:30 in the morning. So we send the state trooper to go down the highway. And he verifies that he thinks we can get through. There's water and there's a lot of trees down, but he thinks we can get through. So we sneak through there, finally get down to Spartanburg. Didn't get service till we got to Columbia, which was about 3 in the morning. Then I started calling our DFO, calling our AD, calling my wife, letting everybody know what's going on. Hey, we're out of there. Ordered Waffle House for the hotel. Got to the hotel at 5 a.m. Woke the players up at 1 o'clock. Had pregame meal, drove to Citadel, played at 5. We tried to move the game to Sunday. MRE Straight and their AD were all on board. They were very helpful, and I don't think their president wanted to do it. So he elected, he said, hey, we'll move the game back to 5 o'clock. I said, fine. Our guys wanted to play at that point. And we kind of went out there and played good enough to win the game. I thought we played really sloppy, 11 penalties and 4 turnovers. Certainly our worst game offensively all year. But found a way to win. Defense played great, and went back to the hotel, spend the night Sunday night, left at 11 a.m. And we got back to campus Sunday night about 7 o'clock, 8-hour trip home. So whirlwind, thankful to be back, thankful to have all our guys intact. The whole travel party made it back. We're safe. Been a lot of texts and calls over the last few days, but a very stressful situation that we managed, I think, as good as we could. And a couple of good Samaritans along the way got us out of there.
I've got to ask, and you alluded to it earlier. It might have been right before we started and we were just chatting, but I knew this about you. I've written this before on Football Scoop. You started your coaching career as the head coach at Gardner Webb and immediately had to deal with COVID and then an unprecedented spring season. Now you've been stranded on the side of the road due to a natural disaster that is literally a generational flood, being called by many a biblical type flood. I gotta ask, do you feel like you're coaching in a microwave or something? You've had all these experiences in 5 years that a lot of coaches don't have in 25 years.
Yeah, certainly been through a lot. We got a great staff. I've hired great people everywhere we've been, and they've gone on to bigger and bigger things and have great careers. But at the end of the day, they care about our players. I think that's one of the things that I'm pretty intentional about in the hiring process. I really don't care what kind of football you know. I want to know what kind of recruiter you are, how good of a teacher you are, and then number one, how much do you care about number one winning, but also care about our players. And there's enough good coaches out there to find them. And these guys did a great job on the trip, and they did a good job during COVID, and they do a good job with the NIL market and how we're dealing with that. But there's 5 things that come across your desk every day as a head coach that you're not going to be prepared to deal with. You really don't have a plan for. This was one of those deals. And, I think first and foremost, my number one worry was safety, making sure we were at higher ground. And I didn't want to be put in a situation where we ever got on top of a building or on top of a bus trying to avoid flooded waters, which honestly, we were about 200 yards from doing that. And then the second thing that crossed my mind was food. As long as we had food and we had each other and we had our state trooper, I felt like we'd be protected for a while. We could survive for a couple of days wherever we needed to get to. But food was a big concern. And Ingles, the general manager at Ingles, really came through for us. And had we stayed for another day or two, I don't know what we would have done. I think they were flying food in the last couple of days. We may have had an opportunity to get some food that way, but super fortunate to be able to navigate the waters, no pun intended. It's you're definitely not a playbook for that. And really proud of our staff and our team for the way they handled it. I think it brought us closer together. The only thing that makes this story better is obviously winning the game, which was cool, and then continue to be successful on the field. And I think we're kind of writing our own history book right now, and this is just one of the chapters in that book.
And once again, a frame of reference here. You talk about almost being stranded and having to be rescued from a rooftop. I think it's important to note, again, for our listeners, and he is ETSU head coach Trey Lamb. I'm John Brice of footballscoop.com here on the Our Coaching Network podcast. People right outside Johnson City quite literally had to be rescued by helicopter on the roof of a hospital, no less. This is how dire the situation was there in Unicoi County / Irwin, Tennessee, which is your last community before crossing over into North Carolina. So there's no hyperbole involved here when you're talking about almost being stranded and facing a situation that could have required an aerial rescue because it happened right there in the backyard of your home campus and your home area. I've got to ask, what do you learn about your team, the way it responded to an entire weekend of adversity? How much do you think maybe this experience galvanizes you guys?
Yeah, I think so. We never got to where we're annoyed with each other, complaining, and we were all kind of scared a little bit, which, the anxiety levels were up, I think, for everybody. It would have been different had we had contact, and cell service and internet, and we had nothing. And these kids are super reliant on their phones. Um, and we really tried to go to the airport because we thought there might be power and service. We drove through there, there was none there. And then that's when we ended up going to the homeless shelter. Obviously, none there, but they didn't have anything to do, which was kind of cool. They talked to each other, they played cards. We had an Xbox on all three buses, which we played some college football on there. Where they kind of got out in the parking lot and turned the music up, and we're in good spirits. They handled it really well. We got a young team, but I thought they managed themselves really well and handled it like professionals.
Great point right there. You do have a young team. You also have a very blended team. I mean, this is your first year at ETSU. It's a lot of your players' first years playing together. Even some guys that you've gotten out of the portal, they're new to ETSU. You didn't have a ton of remaining players on your roster. I just wonder how you already are maybe seeing some growth from this in chemistry, in camaraderie, in maybe the fact that you've been through this. Do you believe it can help you battle through game situations as the season unfolds?
Yeah, no question. Coaches, we always use team building tactics. I believe in making players speak in front of the team. I believe making players speak about their teammates in positive and negative ways. We do all the things that everybody else does, where you go play paintball or you go to a movie or you do all those things, but there's nothing that can replace 14 hours on a bus together in kind of a dire situation. So you can't create this, unorganically. It happened, and we went through it. And I think our players will certainly um, come together and understand, hey, this is bigger than football. We saw some life and death experiences firsthand. We saw families walking out of the water. We saw people being rescued when we were stranded. We saw homeless people being evacuated, families with young kids just walking around with nowhere to go. So it was pretty scary and kind of put things in perspective. I think our team needed that, and I think we'll grow from it and understand like we need each other. We got to keep getting connected and pulling in the same direction. And when you go through events like that, it can certainly make your life more appreciative and more appreciative to play football and make it seem like maybe a little more fun. It's not a job all the time.
Let's talk a little bit of X's and O's and Jimmy and Joe's after outlining one of the most harrowing real life experiences to affect a college football team in recent years. And what do you like about this team, Trey? How have you brought them along so quickly? You're really a fluke onside kick or a last minute possession from being 4-1 with the signature win over perennial powerhouse North Dakota State. So you're now 1-0 in Southern Conference play. You've got a couple of games coming up in a row in league play at home. Where does your team go from there? What do you like about it?
Yeah, I mean, these next 2 weeks are going to be critical, right? We got Chattanooga at home, which is a rivalry, and um, Coach Wright does a great job down there, and they've been good for a long time, and they're kind of preseason picked to win our conference. And This will tell us a lot this week. If we play like we did against North Dakota State or Elon, we'll be in really good shape to win the football game. And I still think we're going through some growing pains of blending teams. This day and age in college football, we've got 24 transfers from Gardner Webb, we've got 16 transfers from other universities, we've got 35 returners and 20 high school kids. So you're talking about four different types of players that got here. I still think the biggest thing we're doing right now is we believe we can win, and there's a lot of belief in the building, and there's a lot of expectation to win in the building, hold them accountable to winning and the things it takes to win. And I think we're growing every day in that aspect. I like our speed. I think we're a really fast team. I think we have a chance to be really explosive offensively with speed at every position. Defensively, we're doing a nice job changing up looks, and we're covering pretty well. Stopping the run, we're rushing the ball. We're top 5 in the country in rushing with 254 yards a game, and we're top 10 in total offense at 450 a game, and leading the SoCon in both those categories. So anytime you're rushing the ball with that success and not turning it over, you're going to be in a lot of games. And I think we got a chance to have a good year. And our goal is to make the playoffs in year one and keep building the foundation of what we've got. I love the Nick Saban comment on College Game Day a couple of weeks ago, talk about a microwave approach, kind of some of the Florida states and Floridas have gone for, where you're just bringing in an onslaught of transfers every year. That's not going to work. You got to build the foundation first and make sure your core guys are bought in, and then you add 6, 7, 8, 9 transfers every semester, and then it starts to become dangerous because you've got the core, you've got the standard, you got the expectations, and then all of a sudden you add some good players and it becomes pretty successful. Now, are we going to continue to lose players to bigger and better programs with more money? Absolutely. It's part of it. But I've been managing that for 5 years now. We know how to handle it. If you stick your hand in a bucket of water and you pull it out and see how the water's affected, that's kind of the approach we have. We're going to go get players out of the portal to replace you. You don't want to be here. We'd love to replace you. So you build a foundation with high school players and young players, and then you add the transfers, and you can become pretty dangerous.
Love that about your programs. I've known it from afar for a bit, just the culture that you instill. Wrapping up here, a couple more quick ones, and then we'll let you go. Again, Trey Lamb, head coach at ETSU, coming off a 31-17 win at the Citadel, which is like no win that either one of us has ever been a part of or witnessed or chronicled before. I'm John Brice of footballscoop.com here on the Our Coaching Network podcast. All right, you touched earlier about being from a coaching family, and your cousin Taylor is the quarterback's coach at Virginia for Tony Elliott, a really promising young coach. Your dad was a coach. Your uncle Bobby Lamb is Bobby Lamb. No, I'm just kidding. But no, just what's it been like? What are some of your earliest football memories? And then, how much pride do you take in carrying on that Lamb name in coaching? Because especially in the Southeast, Georgia, the Carolinas, now with Tay up in Virginia, it's extending up there. But the Lamb name is really known in coaching circles throughout the Southeast.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we're all a little different. You know, Taylor is like super laid back, but really smart. Nothing bothers him. Like never, never changes his attitude. He's always the same, consistent. I'm more of a hothead, emotional, up and down. Not afraid to cry pretty often. Not afraid to yell and scream and get pretty emotional with the coaches and the players, high and low. My dad is more military like. Won 3 state championships, one of the winningest coaches in the state of Georgia, in the Hall of Fame in the state of Georgia. And he was just very militant, like, hey, we're doing it this way. We're going to run these 5 plays. And if they don't work, we're going to keep running them. And we're going to do things the right way. We're going to be 5 minutes early. We're going to wear the same color shorts, socks, all those good things. I think my uncle is an incredible recruiter and good with the media, able to sell his program. I think I learned a lot of things from him in that regard. He's a really good X's and O's guy. My dad couldn't care less about X's and O's. He was more about culture and playing hard and being tough. And, we're all kind of different. I've taken a little bit from each person I've worked for. I had the honor to play for Watson Brown, Mac's brother, and coach for him. He's certainly a mentor and coached everywhere in the country, and probably learned the most football from him, spread offense wise. He was certainly an innovator, not scared to. He was running some of the RPOs in the late 2008, 2009 before they were popular, and we were like, so we're running the ball, and these receivers are running routes too, and it was like kind of new at the time, and kind of learned that world from him. And he'd been a head coach a lot of places. So I've been lucky. I worked for Dwayne Alexander, who's an O-line guru. Really learned a lot of line of scrimmage play and box play from him as a head coach. So I've been blessed. I've been around great people, and I'm just trying to take everything. Sometimes you work for people and you learn what not to do, and more so than you do to do. And I'm just trying to pull everything I can from every experience I have. And weekends like this are going to make me better and make our staff better and make our team better. And anything you can take from any situation is always a learning experience.
I don't want to undersell your Uncle Bobby's ability to be a troll or an instigator either, because that's definitely one of his strong suits. All right, last question here, and it's multiple choice. You can pick, but I always try to ask the coaches that visit with us either what's something about you that people don't know, or what's a job that you had early in your career and you take a moment to look back on now and say, hey, I'm head coach at a FCS program that's doing some big things, but I remember when I was stocking grocery shelves or delivering pizza or something like that.
No, look, I was born on third base in this industry, and I don't take that lightly. My family laid the path for me to be a head coach at 30, and I was probably a lot more advanced than most guys at my age, and was calling plays at 26. So look, I've been blessed, and I don't take a day for granted that I don't think the people that came before me. Something interesting about me is I'm a +1 handicap in golf. So I think there would be a nice competition, nationwide to find a better head coach in Division I football that could beat me. Um, Will Healy, when he was at Charlotte, we're good friends, and Austin P. He and I have had some good matches. He's a scratch golfer as well. But I hadn't played with many coaches that I couldn't beat in golf, and it's my only hobby. I don't fish, I don't play tennis, I don't play pickleball. I probably play 50, 60 rounds a year. In the off season, I play a lot, and it's what I love to do. I got two little girls and a wife that support me fully, and they let me go have some 4 hours to myself every once in a while on a golf course. So that's probably the interesting fact about Troy Lamb that you didn't know.
Who's better on the links, you or David Blackburn?
I'm better, but I think at my age, 35, when he was 35, we'd have had a heck of a match. But I usually give him 3 shots aside right now.
Oh, wow.
And he can putt, great putter. We played in the member together at Blackthorn. We had some success there, and he's been such an asset for me, and just really a friend. Keeps things in perspective, and we've probably played 50 rounds together since I've taken the head job here in the last 11 months. He's a winner, and his golf game is improving. See, he can play a little bit during the season. He's going to try to get me back out there in February, and I probably won't be giving him any shots because he's been playing through the fall a little bit. So we'll see. But David's a huge asset for me.
Yeah, David Blackburn, former head AD at Chattanooga, the number two at Tennessee, and number two at MTSU, one of the most respected athletics administrators anywhere in college athletics. He is Trey Lamb, head coach at ETSU, doing some big things and coming off just one of the most significant character wins I can remember in a really long time. I'm John Brice of Football Scoop. This has been the Our Coaching Network podcast. Coach, thanks so much. Can't thank you enough for this visit, especially under the circumstances, and wish you all the best going forward.
Thanks, John.